So you can hear me?
Yeah. Okay, we'll start with the orientation of Java, how Java is organized. That's the very first thing you need to understand. That's the major problem with students who don't like Java, is because they don't understand this organization. Now, any programming language, the main advantage of it is the inbuilt functions. Because as a programmer, you want a language which is rich in inbuilt functions, so that when you write something for your client who's going to pay you, you want it to be done as quickly as possible. So as a client who is going to pay you, the client does not care as to which language the programmer is using or how is the programmer going to do. That's not the concern of a client. Like, you really don't care how WhatsApp is going to work or what coding it does. You just need to know how to operate it. And you are going to use, obviously, a programming language, its tools, whatever it provides, and you're going to satisfy the client demand. Now, the whole issue here is which language do you choose? Now, no such language is there which is perfect for everything. So when I talk about a language, let us see as to Java provides what and how is Java organized as a language. Now, as I said, any language is going to have a set of inbuilt functions, like a calculator, which has a set of inbuilt functions. So functions are organized in Java in a very different way. So there are various classes. You need to understand the concept of classes. There are various classes within which there are more classes. Classes can have functions. The subclasses can have further subclasses and functions. So it organizes in a little complicated manner. So let's start with the right terminology. The right terminology in Java is, first, there is a package. Think of package like a parcel. Within package, there could be many sub-packages. Within the sub-packages, there could be more sub-packages, or there could be something called as classes. So classes are always part of some package or sub-package. I repeat, classes are always part of some package or sub-package, and classes have a collection of functions. So what does a class actually have? There are two things which a class has, but the one which we are concentrating today on is the class has inbuilt functions. But where is a class? It is within some package, which could be within another package, which could be within another package. For example, one of the main packages in Java is Java. Like, there's a package named Java. Within Java, for example, there is a package named IO. There is a package named util. There is a package named lang, and so on. Okay, we don't have to learn the list of all packages, obviously. And within this package,
So what exactly is a package?
Collection. Package matlab package, collection of things. So from this, what can you say a package is? Collection of other packages and classes. That is a package.
So like, where do we code? Do we code a package?
Hold on. No. This is what is inbuilt, I'm saying. This is not what you are coding.
Acha.
Yeah, inbuilt Java ka organization. I'm talking of the language. I'm talking how the language is organized. So Java gives us packages, within packages, sub-packages, classes. Classes are inside some package. Classes contain functions within them. Like one basic function to do input, output is called as read line. Now this is one function which is used for doing input. There's one function for doing output called println. Now these are functions. So where will they be? Inside some class. So each function is within some class. Get the organization. Forget the function name. I'll discuss the functions in detail later, but understand the organization. Don't mug the names. Understand कि वो बनाया कैसे है. So every function is part of some class, compulsory. And that class will be within some package, sub-package hierarchy, compulsory.
So package, class, and class के अंदर function.
Correct. So like say there's another function called nextInt, which is for reading an integer, which is like input for an integer. Right? NextInt is within a class called scanner. And scanner, this is within some class, I'm saying it's a class named scanner, and which itself is in a package called util. So inside util, there is a package, there is a class called scanner, and within scanner, there is a function called nextInt. So function nextInt is inside class scanner, which is inside util, and util is inside a package called Java. So basically, you need to know which function is where, because when you're going to use any function, the very first thing in your program, you'll have to import that class, whose function you want to use. So if I want to use nextInt, I will have to import java.util.scanner. The moment I do this, then I can use whatever is within the scanner class. So what many people get confused is about this hierarchy, that functions are in classes, classes is in a sub-package hierarchy again. So you need to know where every function is. Secondly, there's a very important problem in Java is the syntax, the writing method. You can see somewhere it's starting with capital, somewhere it's starting with small, somewhere in between a capital letter just pops in somewhere. So this is very important to understand. You can't mug this up. There's a reason. All class names, they have started in capital. All package and function names, they started in small. All class names, they started in capital. All package and function names, they started in small. And whenever the tone is breaking while speaking, it's again a capital. Read line. You're taking a pause. Next int. So it's a one word, but suddenly a capital letter comes in between because it indicates like a tone pause. You're pausing and then you're speaking. So it is indicating of that particular thing. So I repeat again, classes contain functions. Obviously, classes contain more things also. I'll come to that. But classes contain functions, not only functions, but they contain functions. Classes are inside some package. That package itself could be inside some package and so on. So the very first thing you need to do in your program is import that class whose function you are trying to use. You don't import the function. You import the class, and the whole class ke sub-functions are available to you. Yes, most often you will see colleges and students act a little lazy. I normally tell people don't do this initially. So you do import java.util.star. You see many times colleges do this. Initially, you should not do this because you will not learn the hierarchy then. What does this mean? Import everything, every class of util Java. Means every class of util Java means this part will be imported. Note, you will not get the sub packages within the util. That would not get imported by this. So you can't do import java.star and expect to get everything. This is a very big misconception. So star just means that the classes which are present in that opened package that you will be able to use. Means inside util, whatever classes are directly present, those are accessible by this star convention, not uska sub packages. So if I do import java.star, I will get only what's here, which is nothing. I don't get anything what is inside another package. You have to open the right package.
If you do java.util and then after that dot you put one more package name and then put star, so
then you get only that package. Yes. But uske andar wapas sub package hoga tha, that you don't get. So star only imports classes. Just keep that in mind. Then you won't go wrong. Star imports only classes of that package which you just opened. Your import cannot import packages. Yes.
All these names.
All know whichever you study, you'll have to. That's why I said from day one, Java will become a proper engineer's language, which commerce arts people will run away with. So that's why the hierarchy is important.
Okay.
So who is where you'll have to do, and you'll have to remember the names, where they are, and how to use them. How to use them, obviously, is programming. But this hierarchy is important. Capital, small is important. Functions start with small. Class names start in capital. Package names start in small. Wherever the tone is breaking, there it's a capital again. Like for example, there's a class name called input stream reader. It's a class. So I should know I'll start with capital. So input
Then
stream
S will be capital again.
reader.
And R will be capital.
This is a class name. There's another class called buffered reader.
Like what is all this for basically? Where does the coding come in then?
Because these functions are you're going to use, no? Like any function, think of Java, na? Or of Python or anything. When you did Python ka koi bhi function printing ke liye, ya input ke liye, those functions were written by someone, like input you did, but input karta kya? You know, it takes input from the keyboard. But who wrote that? Somebody has written that function input, na? Then only you are using it.
Yeah.
So in Java also there is function for input, but it should be so clear by the programmer that you have to import the actual class before you can use the function. So see the clarity. If you don't have the clarity, you can't code. It's just not like how Python was input bol diya, kidhar input pata nahi, kisne likha pata nahi, kahan pe likha pata nahi. We just use input. We actually didn't care that where was that function actually stored on a computer. And these all are actually folders on a computer. When you install Java, JDK, you will actually open your computer and you will see a folder called Java. Within that, you'll see a folder called IO. You'll see a folder called util. Each package is actually a physical folder on your computer actually in reality.
Okay.
And classes are obviously files in the folders.
That I installed yesterday, was it fine for?
Yeah, Eclipse is fine. Yeah, Eclipse is fine. There are hundreds of editors. Yeah. Eclipse, NetBeans, Creator, both are. So that's okay. That's
and like, sir, one more thing. After I installed Eclipse, it showed me the workspace wala thing. So like saving it in a D drive or anywhere, it's fine. Na? Like the place you save it doesn't matter. Na?
Doesn't matter. Only thing you have to install the Java ka compiler, JDK.
Now, okay, sir, can you just help me out in that after the class? Thoda so confusing che.
Like
I don't know if I've done it right or not.
That will run a program will come to know. Now the online you just search on YouTube now, installing Java and Eclipse. Because Eclipse is not for Java. Eclipse is just an editor for any language. That's why I normally use NetBeans because वो Java के लिए खास बना था. Or some students use JCreator because वो खास Java के लिए बना था. Eclipse is just a global editor.
How does that matter?
Nothing, it becomes easier. Like installation Eclipse is a little headache because it's an editor into which you have to install your compiler. और वो सब खाली next करके हो गया install. JCreator and all are made only for Java. They don't support other languages. Eclipse is like supports everything depending on the plugin you install. Okay. Let's move on. Now, how do I call the functions? Now, every call of a function is done in a very specific way depending on the nature of the function. So functions are normally classified as two types. Either the function is static or the function is non-static. There are two classifications. I'll tell you what it means. Now, static means in simple language shared by everyone. Non-static means not shared by everyone in very layman language. For example, if every student carries their own water bottle, then that water bottle is non-static, but it's not shareable. It's uska khud ki property. But if there's a common water bottle from which everyone is drinking, then that's called static. So static is what is shared by everyone, like air of this atmosphere is static. Mera air, tumhara air nahi hota hai. Sunlight is static, shared by everyone. Jo khud ka ownership hai, that's called non-static in very layman language. Okay, so now what is static and what is non-static are basic we did. Now how it applies to programming. Now let's say, for example, I have a function called POW, which is normally used for doing x raised to y. Now the function POW, how to use it, I'll explain you very soon, is inside a class called math. Inside a class called math. Obviously, M capital, it's a class. And which is inside a package called lang, which is inside Java package. I'm not writing the Java level, that's understood. So Java can the lang can the math can the POW. Now this function is static. How will you know? You'll have to learn it. So another thing you need to know is whether a function is static or not. Now if the function is static, which POW is, then when you use that function, Now, in most languages like C, now since I've not done C, but normally people have done C before doing Java. So in C, what we do POW x comma y, and we do equal to z. This is how we do in C, C++. Okay, we call the function, we give the parameters. This is for x raised to y, and we take the answer in z. So mathematically, you have to do z is x raised to y. This is how we do in C, C++. But if it is Java, I'll have to use a static function or any function, whichever I use. I have to have always a dot before it. And if that function is static, then before the dot, I mention the class name. I repeat, I have the function call, the parameters. Always every function will have a dot before it. And before the dot, what precedes will be different based on whether it's static or non-static. If it is static, then what precedes the dot is the class name. And obviously LHS, if there is, that's okay, that's a different thing. But class name dot function name. In simple words, the format of calling a static function is class name dot function name. And then whatever the parameter list, that would vary from function to function. This is how you call a static function using class name dot function name. Now, initially you'll do reverse. So why I'm telling you this, because initially when you see something like this, you have to try to learn that POW is inside math and it is static. देखो capital letter है तो class का name हो गया. So initially as a reader, you have to gain knowledge. So when you see something like this, you have to tell yourself POW, round brackets, so POW is a function and it's inside math and it is static. Because only static functions have class name dot function name format. So initially you'll have to learn via seeing the programs. Then you'll remember it. But what if the function is not static? Okay, then there are issues. So if I take a function like next int, now this function, first let's see the hierarchy of this function. I've given it, but I'm writing it again. Next int falls under a class called scanner, and which falls under a package called util. Now this is non-static. Now you will not know it is static or non-static. That you have to learn up, or as you see programs, you'll come to know. Now, whenever you invoke a non-static function or you use a non-static function, again, that will have a dot. But what is before the dot is a problem. It's not the class name. Understand why, if you remember why, you'll appreciate it, that whenever the function is static, I told it's common to everyone. It's not Manav ka function, Abhishek ka function, Kunal ka function, Ravi ka function, Rajesh ka function. It's not like that. This is common property. It's not mera sunlight, tera sunlight. It is common sunlight. So that's why for the common thing, it is class name dot function name. But when it comes to your bottle, my bottle, it has to be something like Manav's next int, Abhishek's next int, Rajesh ka next int. It should be like that. So the object name, the owner ka name has to be mentioned here. Who's next int? Now this is a little tricky part. Now I know the next int function is in scanner. Like for example, I know water bottles are carried by humans. Agar generalize kare, so humans is a general category. You are a human, I am a human. So what is humans? Humans is a category. It's a blueprint. It's a plan. There's a definition for humans. कि भाई कैसा दिखना चाहिए, कैसा होना चाहिए, कैसे behave करना चाहिए. There's a guideline. So there is a guideline or a plan already as to what humans are. There's a blueprint already. And then we are instances of that plan. So you are a human being, I'm a human being. We are instances of that plan. And we carry water bottle, whatever it may be. So the point here is the plan to which we belong is called a class. So what is a class? Class in layman language is a plan. I told you class is a collection of functions, agreed. But in layman language, class is a plan. And you and I are instances of that plan. So according to the class human, we are supposed to have hands, eyes, legs. We are supposed to perform certain functions. As human beings, we are supposed to perform certain functionalities. So the human plan was laid out. The human class was laid out. And we all are instances of that class. So Manav, Abhishek, Rajesh, Ravi, we are all instances of that human class. So the problem is whenever we talk of water bottle, are we talking human water bottle or are we talking Manav's water bottle, Abhishek's water bottle, things like that. So when it's non-static, we need to address via the object, via the instance of that class. So our first aim, whenever we want to use a non-static function, obviously identify the class, but more importantly, create the instances, create the objects of that class, and through those objects, through those instances, access the functions which you need to access. So when I create Manav as a human being, then I can say something like Manav.talk, Manav.listen, वैसा हो गया. I don't say human.talk. I don't make everyone talk together. Talk is not a general function. It's a particular person's function. So we need to create instances, or we need to create objects whenever we want to access non-static functions. So this is a non-static function belonging to scanner class. But to access that, the very first thing is I have to instantiate this. I have to create instances of this. I'll have to create objects, and through that object, I can access next thing. For example, if I create an object, say S of the type scanner, then I can do S.nextInt. But S banana padega pehle, which is a little different process. So first step, you'll have to instantiate the scanner class, and through that instance, we can access the non-static function. Obviously, if that function returns something, we may have an LHS, that's a different story. But to call the function, now the format is object name dot function name, and whatever parameters, if there are any, depending on the function. So non-static and static calling sequence is very different. If it's a static function, it's class name dot function name with no instances required, because we are talking of static functions mean general functions, not belonging to any particular instance or object. But when we are talking of a non-static function, we'll have to create an instance of the class. And via that instance, we will have to access the function, because it is not scanner's nextInt, it is S ka nextInt. So tomorrow, if you want to, we instantiate the scanner objects. How do you instantiate? It's a little tricky. Now for that, it's not common for everyone, because that depends on the person who made the scanner class. And that's not you and that's not me. So instantiation is done by us based on the classes card, the way it is written, the way the class is internally written. Okay, now how do I instantiate? Understand this properly. To create an instance, you will use, it's very funny, but you will use one of the functions in the class only. Now you will see it's so weird. To create an instance, you're using a function of the class, and you're then going to use the function of the class via that instance. How weird it sounds. Okay, but that's why there's a special function. There is a special function inside a class, inside every class, which is used for creating an instance. Function, whenever I say, round brackets have to be there. So how do I create S? It's a two-step process. First, I do scanner S. Note, this does not create S. That's the first mistake you may end up doing. This creates a pointer or a reference or S of the type scanner. Matlab S will be of type scanner. वो पैदा नहीं हुआ. S is not yet instantiated. S is not yet allocated memory. S has not been created. Unlike other programming languages, इतना काफी होता था. क्या भाई S is of type scanner था, S बन गया. No, Java makes it so clear that S is of type scanner. मतलब you are telling it that S is of type scanner. You are trying to recommend. You are trying to say that S बनेगा of the type scanner. तभी S को बनाया कैसे? So we use a function called new. New is a function to create memory, and we call a function scanner, and inside there are some parameters. Let's not talk about the parameter. Okay, let's not talk about this parameter first. I'll write it correctly. But understand this, scanner is a function. Round bracket, hai? Function to what? Now see this funny part. This is the only
scanner is one word.
No. There's a gap. Now scanner is a function, but it's without a dot. Understand? So till now I said that every function has a dot. If it's a static function, there's a class name before it. If it's a non-static function, then there's an instance or an object name before it. Point is, there is only one type of function in each class, and that function name is same as the class ka name. That also is a speciality. The function ka name is same as the class ka name within the same class, and that function you cannot invoke with a dot. We call that function as a constructor. I call it God. So within each class, there is a constructor function. There's a God function. Who is God? The creator. Who is God? The creator. So you request God to give you a new child, and you do namkaran of that child as whatever you feel like. So new is to create. Scanner is requesting God to create a new child of the type scanner, and one new child of the type scanner, you made a request to a function within the scanner class, whose the function ka name is also scanner. Now, say for example, you had a class called input stream reader. And if you wanted to create an object of the class input stream reader, you want to instantiate this, what will you do? You call a function only, new ke baad. And what should the function name? Input stream reader only. So the function which is used to create objects of a class has the same name as the class. The function used to create objects of a class has the same name as the class, and it is within the class, and it is the only function which is called without the dot. So the constructor function, the God function, is the one which is called without a dot. Rest all functions have a dot preceded either by the object name or by the class name. But constructor is the only function which is invoked directly. Constructor is always a function of the same name as a class. It may not have parameters. As I said, it depends on the creator. That's what I was meaning. That a person who made that function within the class scanner, who wrote the function scanner in the class scanner, must have written with or without parameters. So that you have to study in due course of time. If there are parameters, it's called a parameterized constructor. If it had no arguments, it's a default constructor. So default constructor is one with no arguments, and parameterized constructor one is with arguments. And constructor is a function has the same name as a class, and it is within the class. And it is used for creating objects. So role of a constructor to create objects, to create instances. Bhagwan ka role bacche log dene ka, to give children to the people on earth. So that's why this is the construction, the creator, the function who creates scanner object. Now scanner constructor can create only scanner objects. The request should go to a particular type of God to have a particular type of child. Think about it. So like I tell people, Hindu mythology, paisa chahiye, so you don't go to Brahma and say, give me money. You go to Lakshmi and say, give me money. You go to Hanumanji, say, give me strength. You don't go to Mahalakshmi and say, give me strength. It doesn't happen. So like that, there's a particular God for a particular purpose. Same way there's a particular constructor function in a particular class for a particular type of object which you want. And why you want this type of object? Because the function which you wanted, the main root is what? The function. The main objective is what? Calling that non-static function. So वो function कौन से class में है जब तक नहीं पता है तो वो class का instance कैसे बनेगा? Think. So that's why you'll have to know the function is in which class so that you can create a two-step process to instantiate that class or create a child of that class or to create the manav of human, for example. And then using that object, you can access the non-static function. So for example, if I take this human example, it could be something like human m is equal to new human. Think about it. Parameters may not be
so
there.
We have to always add new in front of the
constructor, yes, because you want a new child of this constructor. And then m dot karke you access.
The scanner after the new is a class or is it a function?
Function, round bracket.
Okay.
Round bracket matlab function.
Okay.
So you are accessing the function, and that function is in which class? Scanner class.
Scanner.
And there's no dot before this function only. Matlab scanner class के अंदर जो scanner function है, input stream reader class के अंदर जो input stream reader function है, buffer reader class के अंदर जो buffer reader function है,
all classes have this same kind of a function,
yes,
basically, like the same name.
Yes. And why do they have it? So that you can create objects of that class. And why would you want to create objects of that class? So that you can access the non-static functions of that class. And non-static function has to be of a object. Matlab Manav ka talking is different from Abhishek ka talking. You cannot say Manav.talk and Abhishek begins to talk. Think what I'm saying. Yeah. So that's why each class, each function, each object of a non-static, a non-static function is for each object. So therefore, whenever you create a function, whenever you want to use a function which is non-static, you create an object using the constructor function, which is the same function name and the class name which are same, and that function is in that class only. And it's so weird if you try to think You are using a function which is in the class to create an object so that you can use the non-static function of that class only. Think.
Got it.
Yeah. So therefore, you need to know very clearly. So now, see, hence you're starting off, so it will be quite a lot reverse earlier. You will see this and you will gain information. How? You will say function, round bracket. You will see dot. You will see object. You will say non-static function. फिर ये ऑब्जेक्ट कौन से क्लास का है यहाँ से पता चलेगा यहाँ से पता चलेगा इट्स एन ऑब्जेक्ट ऑफ विच क्लास देन दिस कंस्ट्रक्टर इज पैरामीटराइज और नॉट पैरामीटराइज वो लिस्ट से पता चलेगा आर्गुमेंट की आर्गुमेंट लिस्ट है तो पैरामीटराइज है तो नॉट पैरामीटराइज class name and function name have to be the same when you talk of a constructor. So after new, whatever you have has to match the type of S. तो ये function हुआ S का type scanner है. Like when you say int X, you say X का type is int. That's what we say normally. So same way scanner S, S का type is scanner. But scanner S does not create S. New creates S. New जब तक नहीं किया तब तक it didn't create. Obviously, many students or many teachers, you will see them combine these two lines into one. Like scanner S is equal to new scanner S line में डाल देंगे. It's fine. They merge the two lines. Like instead of doing int x equal to 5, instead of doing int x and x equal to 5, what many may do is int x equal to 5. एक ही हो गया. There's no difference. So same way out here, scanner S is equal to new, वो combine कर देंगे. But initially, it's up to you how you want to deal with it. But you need to know it's a two-step process. This step is just a declaration. You're declaring S is going to be born after type scanner. पैदा नहीं हुआ. And here, literally, a nameless child got born. A nameless child got born. Of what type? Scanner type. And that nameless child has been sent back to the parents. And the parents named it as S. Note, new does not create with a name. New just creates
so
a
the
particular
S is
type.
basically the name.
Correct. It's the earth given name, for example. So ये नया बच्चा पैदा हुआ जिसका नाम नहीं है with these characteristics, if I say that. Okay, and this characteristics वाला बच्चा is now named as S. And then the whole access of that particular functions, non-static functions by S will be done with S dot, S dot, S dot, S dot. But obviously S dot can access only the functions of scanner class, common sense. The S is of type scanner, तो स्कैनर के अंदर है वही वो एक्सेस कर सकते हैं. S dot करके it cannot access something of the input stream reader class or buffer reader class. It has to access only things which are in the scanner class.
Got it.
So these two things be very clear: how to access static functions, how to access non-static functions.